Entering Burlington is the last thing. Hi everybody, Sonia Rollins. I'm here at BACC Talk with Rachael Hylan, who's a partner at Caras Schulman. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, you know what? I'm excited to have you here because it's that time of year, right? Where everybody says, there's two things that have to happen in your lifetime. You die and you pay your taxes, right? Those are the two things, and it's tax season. So we thought it would be really fun to have Rachael come and talk about all of the different tax things that you should be looking out for as we're starting out the new year. But before we do that, talk a little bit about yourself, how long you've been with Caras Schulman, how long the company's been around.
Sure. So Caras Schulman's been in existence for almost 50 years, in Burlington for greater than 30 years.
Wow. Yeah.
I've been with the firm for just over 7 years.
Yeah.
Before that, I was with a much larger global firm in Boston, so definitely a much different environment, working locally with closely held businesses and individuals.
Yeah.
The firm's a full-service accounting firm, meaning we do provide financial statement, bookkeeping, retirement plan, and of course tax support, though my area of expertise is within tax advisory and compliance, and that's where I dedicate 100% of my time.
And talk about people who come to someone like you. I mean, talk about the size of that kind of corporation. It's a one person, it's a large, when do you know you need to go see somebody for tax advice? But is that the right way to ask that question?
Yeah, so we work with what we call closely held businesses. So really that's most likely between 1 to 10 owners or shareholders. Mm-hmm. And really these businesses are where the owner is closely involved with the day-to-day operations and management of the business. Right. As compared to a publicly traded company or a business where the owners are more just investors and have a further disconnect from the actual operations.
Right.
And from there, we're able to provide full service support if they need to establish a bookkeeping system, if the bank requires some sort of financial statement, we're able to provide those services. If they're looking to implement a retirement plan, we have a TPA service that can help design and implement the plan. And of course, everyone needs to prepare their taxes, so we'll help strategize on the most tax efficient structure for the business, as well as doing the tax planning and of course the compliance at the end of the year.
So Rachel, is it too late? Is it too late for someone who's watching this show, for example, to say, well, I haven't been preparing with a tax accountant, but I'd like an accountant to do my taxes? Like, if there's someone like that, they can come see you. They can come see you and start from now. It's not that they have to wait for the next tax year, correct?
That's right. You can always start working with a professional at any point during the year. That's a question I get quite a bit. Typically, there's some sort of trigger event. Yeah. Maybe all of a sudden they're looking to bring on some outside investments or work with the bank to get some additional financing. Mm-hmm. Maybe they got an audit that didn't have a good result and they're looking to mitigate the consequences of the audit and work more efficiently moving forward. However, you can certainly start working with a tax professional before some sort of trigger event to help better structure you moving forward to avoid those unexpected consequences.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that, because I think a lot of people feel like if it's pretty straightforward stuff, I can just go online and do my taxes. Mm-hmm. But can you talk to the benefit of having an advisor or a professional do taxes with you as opposed to trying to do them by yourself?
Sure. So I've seen many situations where looking at the face of the return, it seems very basic, very simple. TurboTax or H&R Block can certainly handle the compliance and do an accurate job. Mm-hmm. However, they may not be doing the most tax efficient planning. Yeah. There may be some other strategies that we could have utilized to help reduce their tax liability or better plan for it. Too often I see individuals going to H&R Block at the end of the year not knowing what they're about to walk into and maybe having an unexpected tax bill.
Right, because sometimes there is something you're not necessarily aware of as an individual, for example. And let's talk about that, like an individual, like a person who's either has a W-2 or a 1099, and maybe people who are watching 1099 people withhold their own taxes and then pay taxes quarterly, right? And then a W-2 is, your traditional check and getting your taxes taken out. Either of those things, there are benefits to going and seeing an accountant and having them help you with that, correct? Is one, what's the right word to term it? Is there a reason other than a trigger point, but it's really just a professional to be able to look at your overall picture? Would that be a right way to describe that?
Sure. Yeah. So I'd say we work primarily with individuals that have a higher degree of complexity in their return. So
Okay.
perhaps someone that has stock options, perhaps someone that receives commissions or substantial annual bonuses, where there's more variability in their taxable income each year.
Okay.
In which case planning is more important, because the employer's withholding system will not always adequately calculate the taxes that will be due.
Right.
For a small business client, perhaps someone who's receiving a 1099 or someone that has a K-1, then there's not going to be any withholding on that source of income, so you will need to calculate and pay quarterly taxes if necessary. Then there's other degrees of complexity, such as what can I deduct to offset that income, in which working with a professional can certainly help provide more guidance.
Yeah. Okay. So there's two things that we always say: you're going to die, you have to pay your taxes. But there's also one other thing, and that is eating. So we are going to go. The foodie spotlight this week, or this month, I should say, was Eddie V's. Have you been to Eddie V's yet?
I have not yet.
You
But
got
it
to
looks
go.
like I need to
Unbelievable.
go.
Yeah. So join us at Eddie V's for a few minutes. You're going to see some really great things when we go there. We had the pleasure of Chef making some Parmesan crusted sole, and we'll be right back after you take a look. Hi everybody, Sonia Rollins. We are here for Chamber Spotlight's foodie segment at the new Eddie V's. Been in Burlington for about 6 months, and they are doing unbelievable things here. If you haven't come, you really should try it. Today we're going to talk to David Greekwood, the managing partner, and Chef Patrick Clancy is going to also show us the Parmesan sole. It's a great treat, and we're happy to have you join us. I am thrilled to be at Eddie V's today with David Greekwood, who is the managing partner here. David, thank you for joining us today.
Excited to have you here. Thank you for having me.
Burlington is one of these communities that has been really quite fortunate with their restaurant scene, right? I mean, it has been a remarkable growth that happens, and every time we think there can't possibly be another restaurant that's going to be as good as the ones we have, enter in Eddie V's, which is like spectacular. Tell me about what you think about the Burlington scene and how Eddie V's has kind of been fitting in.
Well, it's an interesting question. I agree with you that it almost seems as though the market might be saturated, but then these restaurants open and they do well, and and we continue to open more. And we're excited to be here, and so far so good. The restaurant's been doing really well.
It has been so well received because, again, I mean, the marketplace here is so strong, and the bar has been raised, David. I mean, it is a remarkable thing when you walk into a restaurant of this caliber and you are treated with such grace and warmth from the second you walk through the door. You know, every one of your servers, every one of your staff, I mean, everybody is really kind of trying to make it an experience you don't forget. Is that, talk about that a bit as a managing partner, the importance of having staff that kind of delivers. You're delivering good food, but the people who deliver it are just as important.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the team, right?
Yeah.
So we've been very fortunate. The fact that we're able to gather such an amazing group of people is why we've been successful up to this point, and why we'll continue to be, right? So we call it feeling the love.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want people to walk through the door and feel the love and really, know that we're excited to have, our guests here, and we want them to leave thinking that this is the best dinner they ever had.
Yeah.
100% satisfaction is our goal.
So let's talk about the food a little bit.
Please.
Yeah, Eddie V's is known, of course, you have great steaks and a bunch of different meals, but you're known for your seafood. Would that be an honest statement or a good statement?
I think that's a fair assessment, yeah.
So talk about the
we're
seafood
known
a
for
bit.
our prime quality seafood, but as well as our prime quality steaks as well. So
I want you to know I've tested both and
as have I. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah.
No, I would say that our steak could rival any steakhouse in the area.
True.
All of our steaks are prime grade. So with that being said, my hope is that you're going to try a little bit of our Parmesan crusted sole.
If I have to.
In a minute, yeah, we'll force you'll twist your arm, but Chef is going to prepare that for you. I would say that that's probably my favorite, and we've got a number of wonderful options on the menu.
Right, and seafood comes in every day. I mean, I know
every
that.
day.
Yeah, so it's coming in fresh.
Yep.
Not only do you do good seafood, good steak, great menu, but your bar is out of this world.
I think our bar scene is what sets our restaurant apart in regards to other restaurants in the area. We do have live entertainment every day, which is cool, even on Sunday. It's an irresistible vibe, as we like to say. It's a fun place to be. We offer, obviously, full menu, full service at the bar, as well as the lounge tables.
Do you find people are eating at the bar more?
Quite a bit.
Yeah, and then your drink menu is really great. I mean, obviously the standard drinks you can get here, but you really have some great unique drinks. Talk about what would be your favorite. I'll tell you my favorite after you tell me yours.
Okay,
All
fair
right.
enough.
Yeah.
So what I love about our drink program in
Yes.
general is just it brings a little bit of a flair for the dramatic, right? So our presentation is really cool. Well, my favorite drink on the menu is the smoked old fashioned, where we actually, torch a piece of cherry wood right in front of the guest, and we fill the glass with smoke. It's kind of a deconstructed old fashioned that we put together right in front of the guest, which is a lot of fun. And then we have our Hope Diamond, which is like a blue ice cube, and we pour a clear liquid over that turns, it's like a magic trick right in front of the guest. A lot of ingenuity to it, and more importantly, it tastes good.
Absolutely.
Right, so,
right,
yeah.
and so you did take my favorite drink, because I do have to say, for those who do or
The smoked
do-
old fashioned,
oh my
yeah.
God,
People
what a
love it,
drink.
yeah.
And
And
it's
it's
a
our
great
top shelf.
presentation.
Yeah.
It really is, yeah. So Dave, it's kind of hard to ignore that when you walk into this restaurant, there is this beautiful display of lots of wines.
rooms,
Yes,
yeah.
the wine room. So can you talk a little bit about
Sure.
the wines that are available at Eddie V's?
Yeah, well, we've only been open for 6 months, so our wine program is still evolving and getting better, but
Yeah.
we do carry over 2,000 labels, all of which are kept in a temperature-controlled environment, right? So when you have high-end wines, it's really important that you keep them at the perfect temperature so as to not spoil and whatnot. But, it's just it's a really cool display, like you said. I mean, we just set up in a beautiful manner right in the middle of the dining room.
You were recently
showpiece.
recognized. Yeah.
Yes, and we were recently recognized in Wine Spectator
Right.
for having one of the top wine lists in the area, which is exciting. And what's really exciting for me and for our wine director, Anna, is that it's still growing, right? So we're still adding to it, and we're trying to, find some cool vintages and some different things that we can add to our reserve list, which is fun.
And then you also have private dining, which is fantastic.
We have anywhere from a room that holds 14 people up to 14 people. It is fully private. It's called the Speakeasy Room. It's right off the bar area. We also have our Franklin Room. This space holds up to 35 people. We also can do cocktail receptions for a little more than that in there. And then we have our Hancock Room, which we can set up to 60 people in that room for a seated dinner. And that offers a fully private space as well. What I love about our private areas in this restaurant is we can open up the curtains and really make you feel like a part of the dining room if that's what you want.
Yes.
Or it can be, we can shut the curtain, shut the windows, and have you be, completely private as well. So it suits a lot of different types of events, right? So whether it's a personal birthday party or that type of thing, or it's a business-oriented, dinner or pharmaceutical dinner or that sort of thing, we can accommodate
Absolutely.
that as well.
And for people watching, you have full capacity for AV as well. So
do.
yeah, so you could do presentations when you're doing private dining. You can do anything like that because there's a full AV
In all of
capacity.
our rooms, we have full AV capability. Webcasting is one of the things that we've done a lot of.
It really is. You could do anything from just being at the bar all the way to a private party when you step into Eddie V's. I mean, it's like a buzz. The vibe is what you used as a word, but there really is that when people talk about the restaurant, which is great. All right, so another question for you. You could be a friend of Eddie's. Did I say that right? Or a friend
did,
of
yeah.
Eddie's V's?
Thank you for asking that.
How do you do that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. One, just coming in, we can add you into our system, and basically what it does is it allows for you to receive marketing opportunities and that, and just information in regards to some events that we have coming up, and any type of thing that we have going on, any type of holiday events that we have coming up and that sort of thing. If you wanted to receive that information, you can log on to the website, eddyv.com, and just throw your email address in there, and we'll send that stuff out to you.
Your group is very dedicated to community service, which is commendable. So talk a little bit about that, the importance of Eddie V's being tied into the community that they do work in.
Being strong business citizens is something that is a huge focus for Darden Restaurant Group in general.
Yes.
And when I worked with Capitol Grill, it was the same way, and being here, it's we recognize the importance of being involved with the community. Our philanthropic activities, really what I like is they give myself and my management team the opportunity to kind of, involve ourselves on a personal level.
Yeah.
So we're currently involved with the Leahy Hospital Foundation. They do a lot of great work with some unfortunate things like domestic violence and mental health issues and that sort of stuff. So we involve ourselves with them. And then we do a harvest program, which is really cool. We donate food twice a week to local food pantries, and we do that twice a week. Yeah, we try to involve ourselves in a number of different ways when it comes to charitable issues. I mean, obviously, our charitable events, we give out marketing cards, gift cards to auction things off and that sort of thing. We have silent auction events and that sort of stuff that we help with. So, yeah,
It's great.
it is.
It
Thank
really
you.
is. Well, David, thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to be here. I hope people come and visit you
Thank
here
you.
often. We're going to remind them that there's live entertainment every night in the bar. The bar opens at 4, the dining room opens at 5. There's private dining capabilities as well. If you haven't been to Eddie V's, shame on you. You should get here, right? And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate it very much.
All right, we are here with Executive Chef Partner Pat Clancy. Pat, thank you for letting us in the kitchen. I always feel like this is a good run for me because I love food and then I get to be in the kitchen with the chef, so that's as good as it gets.
We have a beautiful kitchen. I love to show it off.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what we're going to make today.
Sure. It's a Parmesan sole.
Yep.
So it's just a lemon sole that's done with panko and Parmesan breadcrumbs with some buttermilk, and then it's just seared on the flat top. And then we have a really light tomato salad that goes with it, and then a lemon butter sauce for it as well.
All right, let's do it.
First, take our piece of sole, season it lightly, a nice Cantonese flour, and then it's dredged in buttermilk. And then this is our panko and Parmesan crust. And then we go over to our griddle here.
Okay.
So we'll let that sit for a few minutes. Nice, we want it golden brown, and we do have a menu that's gluten friendly, which I know that's another big. I get lots of questions about that. So we do have a menu that is more geared towards people that have, gluten
Sensitivities.
intolerance. Yes. So that's what you're looking for, a nice even golden brown. That's the panko starting to color up, and then you have the Parmesan cheese in there as well. It's going to color up as well. So again, another couple, 3-4 minutes on that. It's beautiful, light, flaky. You get the flavor of the Parmesan when you're eating it. And I guess we have a nice lemon butter sauce with it for it as well, and a tomato salad that we make every day. It's just heirloom tomato, baby heirlooms. Just very simple with extra virgin olive oil and some salt and pepper and some chives and red onions. And our sauces are very simple, but very quality driven. We have very strict shelf lives on everything. We always like have our plates in the oven, keep them hot. One of the rules is if you can touch them with your fingers, they're not hot enough. Like I said, so this is a cream, lemon, garlic butter. So I'll just take a couple ounces around the edge.
That's so interesting that you do it that way because the flavor gets picked up, but it's not like drenching the fish, right?
You're going to keep the bottom of that fish still crispy.
Yeah.
It's like if you put the sauce down first and then put that light crumb on top of it, it tends to make it soggy when you're digging into it. So, didn't cut that one, so that goes there. And we have a nice little lemon, and then this is a cilantro microgreen. Excuse me 1 second, then a little fresh chopped parsley around the outside, and that's it. Parmesan sole.
That's a beautiful thing.
Star of the show.
Best part of this job for me is being able to taste it. I assure you what you saw tasted just as good as it looked. Thanks so much for joining us. For Chamber Spotlight, I'm Sonia Rollins. All right, so Eddie V's, it's like fantastic. If you haven't been there, folks, please go see it. Every night they do jazz. I mean, it's really a really cool place, and sometimes you go to a place because it's cool, and sometimes you go to a place because the food's good. This is like a twofer, the food's good and the place is cool. We are here with Rachael from Caras Schulman. Thank you so much again for joining us. We were talking about, the benefits of having a tax advisor and someone, a professional on your side. Let's talk about some of the details of that as we come into prepping for tax year. So while we're on the whole benefits of having an advisor, talk a little bit about tax fraud and how that's been coming up, or I mean, I guess it's always been around, but maybe a little bit more prevalent lately.
It most certainly is more prevalent, and it's something everyone needs to be aware of. So one of the issues with filing late is you run the risk of having a fraudulent return filed on your behalf, and the IRS have already issued a refund to someone else's bank account. It's just something we need to be ever more aware of. Some steps you can take in order to prevent this from happening to you is always protecting your personal information and doing basic identity theft tracking. In terms of taxes, avoid sending any secure information through an unsecure means. If you're working with a professional already, make sure you're never sending copies of your returns, social security numbers, your address, or any bank account information via email. Always make sure that's done either in person over the phone or through some other secure means.
That's really important when you think about it, because people probably do that all the time, not thinking.
All the
like they
time.
forward. You're talking, and I'm like, God, I think I've done that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're thinking, you don't even think, and you just forward something along for someone
Forward
to
a
look
tax
at.
form.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So what we do to prevent that is we do have a secure online portal for the clients that do want to work with us electronically. They can securely upload and send documents to us. We'll receive notification to allow us to go and download the documents completely encrypted. We also use the same system to send tax returns to our clients electronically. It allows us to still be able to work in an electronic environment without putting our clients' data at risk.
Understood. Okay, so that's really good to know. And talk about prepping for tax season. Like, now that we're into it, right? What's the prep? What would you suggest for people to start to prep for their tax season?
That's really one of the biggest areas I see causing anxiety within my clients is not being prepared or not feeling prepared. So in order to be prepared for that first meeting or first interaction with your tax professional to get your return prepared is making sure that you have all of the necessary information available in an organized system. So some deductions you previously may have been tracking may no longer be deductible or applicable to you based on the changes made to our tax code last year. So I always recommend talking with your tax professional to make sure you are dedicating your time to tracking the appropriate items. In terms of our small business owners that may be still tracking a good amount of expenses and mileage, make sure you have that information in an organized system prior to meeting with your tax professional. Nowadays, bringing a shoebox full of receipts is not the most efficient method of tracking your deductions, and it's just going to create additional unnecessary time spent to prepare your tax return or potentially missing deductions.
Yeah. So I'm that shoebox girl. I mean, I'll admit to you, I don't walk in with the shoebox, but that's where it's living. It's like, and then I go into a full panic because now I have to take said shoebox and separate it and then figure out what I meant when I wrote a little note on top of it, right? So if you were to give people some advice about, you know, ways to kind of do it other than that, and you said something interesting to me earlier before we were on, that you can now keep them electronically as opposed to keeping these big boxes of things. Can you talk to that a little bit? I mean, how do people do that?
Sure. So for those that aren't robust enough to have an electronic bookkeeping system or utilize something such as QuickBooks, for a small business owner, they could certainly keep the summary of their expenses in, say, Excel. However, the actual documentation and retention of the records, which would be required in the case of an audit, you can certainly download a free app. There's plenty of apps that you can find in the App Store that allow you just to scan a picture or take a photo of a receipt, and that will actually provide substantial documentation in the case that you are under audit.
That's unbelievable. So then you can throw the paper away.
You can throw the paper away. You don't have to worry about loss of records, any potential damage. You can have it forever tracked in your phone. We know we all have our phones always with us.
Yes.
Same thing for mileage. This is a really big area that I see a lot of clients but losing potential deductions on.
Right.
If you're constantly driving for business, which I know you are, then the minute you get in your car, you open your phone, you click start tracking, and when you end your trip, you click end tracking. And these apps can actually keep the mileage log for you that you need in order to get that good deduction on your tax return.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that's like a huge savings of time for everybody involved, right?
It is.
And so this whole philosophy of keeping something for 7 years, Rachel, I say philosophy, but I swear I keep them, right? But my question to you is that the number? Is it 7 years that you're supposed to keep receipts?
So unfortunately, that's accurate. I've seen audits that have gone back as far as 7 years.
But past 7 years, no, right? Like you can throw things away past 7, or?
Yes and no. It's going to depend on your particular situation and what type of records we're talking about. But I've seen audits as recently as yesterday where I was asking the client to dig up receipts from 2012.
Holy moly, imagine. Yeah, because, and so if you have these electronic files, that counts. You do not have to keep any.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And talk about, you know, the difference between, because like you said it just a little while ago, there are times, you know, that you used to keep receipts for certain things and now they're not applicable in today's tax law. What would you say the major difference is, or do you know what the major difference is this year's tax law versus last, for example?
Sure. So first talking about deductions that you previously may have been tracking that are no longer deductible. let's say you're a W-2 employee and you're incurring out-of-pocket unreimbursed expenses. Previously, you were able to take a deduction on your tax return. That was actually completely eliminated in the 2018 change. So have a conversation with your tax professional if you think this may be applicable to you and you're still tracking those receipts, because not only is it not deductible, you may no longer even be itemizing your deductions.
Right, right.
And then in terms of other changes relative to last year, with the new tax code, a lot of individuals were not adequately prepared and didn't understand how the code would impact them. So the IRS did offer a one-time reduction in the under or late payment penalty calculation, whereas for this year, if you haven't gone ahead and made some proactive changes, expect to be penalized a little bit higher than you were previously.
Really? Yeah. And so that, you know what, this comes right back to what we started talking about in the beginning, which is that's why a tax professional is so important, because otherwise you're guessing what you're supposed to be paying on your taxes, right? I mean, guessing is probably loose, but as an individual paying, you're making an assumption based on something. Would that be a good way to say it?
Yeah, so I always recommend connecting with your tax professional at least 2 times a year, once to actually prepare the tax return and once sometime in the 3rd or early of the 4th quarter of the year to review what has happened during the year, what you expect to happen before the end of the year, and see if there's anything you need to do prior to year end to make sure you're positioning yourself well for tax season.
Okay, so tell everybody who's watching, let's talk some hard dates for people who don't know. Some hard dates that you should be paying attention to when you're getting ready to do your taxes.
Sure. So the IRS opens up for tax filing for the 2019 season on January 27th. So for those ready and anxious to file their returns, that's a good due date for you. Otherwise, April 15th is the due date for everyone else.
Right.
You have the opportunity to file an extension if you're not ready, which allows you up until October to file your returns. Some items that cannot be extended if you're making contributions to your traditional IRA or your Roth IRA, those are due by April 15th. There's no opportunity to extend that date.
Okay.
If you're also making out-of-pocket contributions to a health savings account or an HSA, those are also due April 15th.
So you can't extend on either of those?
Cannot extend on either of those.
Okay. All right, folks, you heard it here. Rachael Hylan, partner at Caras Schulman. Thank you for joining us. Tell everybody where you're located so if they can reach out to you. Where is Caras Schulman in Burlington?
Yep, so we're on Blanchard Road in Burlington.
On Blanchard Road in Burlington. Do yourself a favor, get yourself a tax professional. Thank you so much for all of those little tidbits, because, folks, it's coming one way or another. By April 15th, you got to file. All right, Rachel, thanks so much for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will see you soon. For Back Talk, I'm Sonia Rollins.